Making more money doesn't automatically make your life better. In fact, if you're not careful, it can make your problems bigger. Not because money is bad, but because it amplifies whatever is already there. If your habits are messy, money makes them more expensive. If your decisions are unclear, money gives you more ways to make the wrong ones. And this is the part most people don't expect. They think income is the solution, but income is just an amplifier. So instead of assuming that money will fix everything, it's more useful to ask a different question. What actually needs to change when money starts coming in? And just as important, what should stay exactly the same? Let's make this real. Imagine someone named Maya. She's been working hard for years. Careful with money, always thinking before spending. Then things change. Better job, higher income, and for the first time there's relief. At first, it's small upgrades. A better phone, more food deliveries, subscriptions she avoided before. Nothing extreme, just a better lifestyle. And it feels like progress. But a few months later, something strange happens. That pressure slowly comes back. Different level, same feeling. Now here's where one small habit could have changed everything. There's something called the 72-hour rule. And it's simple. For anything non-essential, you just wait 3 days before buying it. At first, that sounds unnecessary, but what it does is powerful, because most purchases are emotional in the moment and logical later. Maya never used that pause, so every decision felt right in the moment. But stacked together, they created pressure again. Now compare that to someone named Daniel. Same situation. Income goes up, but he starts doing something slightly different. He uses a simpler version sometimes, the 30-30 rule. If something costs more than $30, he waits 30 hours. If it's over $100, he waits 30 days. Not to restrict himself, just to create space between impulse and decision. And something interesting happens. Most things don't feel as important after the wait. Now let's take this one step further, because this is where people start thinking differently. Instead of asking, "Can I afford this?" Daniel asks, "How much of my life does this cost?" This is sometimes called as counting the true cost, looking at money as hours of your life, not just dollars. If he earns $25 an hour and something costs $250, that's 10 hours of his life. And suddenly the question changes. Not, "Do I want this?" but, "Is this worth 10 hours of my time?" And that one shift quietly filters out a lot of unnecessary spending. Now, here's another subtle mistake people make when income increases. They start buying cheaper versions of things repeatedly, replacing them again and again. There's a concept called buy once, cry once, meaning instead of buying something cheap 5 times, you buy something high quality once. It hurts a little up front, but over time, it actually saves money, time, and frustration. Now let's zoom out, because income growth usually comes with lifestyle growth. Better apartment, more convenience, more comfort. And again, nothing wrong with that. But if your lifestyle grows at the same speed as your income, nothing really changes. So here's what Daniel does differently. Every time his income increases, he saves a portion immediately. There's a simple idea behind this. Save half of every raise. Not all of it, just half. Before it becomes normal, before it disappears into daily life. And over time, that creates a gap between income and lifestyle. And that gap is where wealth builds. Now let's talk about something people ignore completely: emergencies. Most people think, "I'll deal with it when it happens." But that's expensive. There's a simple structure some people follow: 3 to 6 9 months of expenses. 3 months if you're single, 6 if you have dependents, 9 if your income is unpredictable. It's not about fear, it's about stability. Because when you have that buffer, you make decisions differently. Calmer, less rushed. Now let's shift to something physical: your environment. Imagine walking into a cluttered space. Mess everywhere. Nothing organized. Even if you don't realize it, it affects your thinking. Now compare that to a simple, clean space. You think differently there, more clearly. So some people follow a simple rule: one in, one out. If something new comes in, something old goes out, not for minimalism, but to prevent silent clutter. There's another small one that's surprisingly powerful: the 20-20 rule. If something costs less than $20 and you can replace it in under 20 minutes, you don't need to hold on to it just in case. And what that does is free space, mentally and physically. Now let's talk about something less visible: attention. Every day, something is trying to get you to spend. Emails, ads, notifications. So, one simple habit is this: unsubscribe aggressively, remove the noise, because the less you're exposed, the fewer unnecessary decisions you make. Now, here's a shift that quietly changes everything: what you do with your time. Most people consume more than they create, scrolling, watching, absorbing. But people who build wealth consistently tend to balance that. There's a simple idea: for every hour you consume, spend an hour creating, learning, building, improving something, because creation compounds, consumption resets. Now let's zoom out, because all of this leads to a bigger shift. At the beginning, money feels like validation, proof that you're doing well. So naturally, you want to show it, upgrade things, signal progress. But over time, that changes. You stop caring as much about how things look and start caring more about how things feel. Freedom, flexibility, control. This is sometimes called a stealth wealth mindset, where the goal isn't to look rich, but to be stable, quietly. Because the more you try to look wealthy, the harder it is to actually build it. And the more you focus on building it, the less you feel the need to show it. So if we step back and look at everything together, making money doesn't solve your problems. It changes the scale at which they show up, which means the real shift isn't external, it's internal. It's how you think, how you decide, how you structure your life. Because in the end, wealth isn't just about having more. It's about needing less from the wrong things and being more intentional about the right ones. So if your income is starting to grow, don't rush to upgrade everything. Pause, just for a second, and ask yourself, what actually needs to change here? And just as important, what should stay exactly the same? Because if you get that right, money doesn't just make your life bigger, it makes it better. I'm Robert, and if this helped you think about money a little differently, stay with me. We'll keep breaking this down simply. I'll see you in the next one.